My sister is annoying. She might not try to be. Though family is important, it's also hard for me. I do not always like her, yet you live in her heart. Deep down, I love my sister. Let this be a new start. Though family is important, it's also hard for me. It's hard for most of us sometimes, isn't it? I mean, some of it's just the regular aggravations of different people trying to figure out how to make it work in the same dynamic relationship. Some of it are the wounds we get. We're always wounded by those we love. Sometimes it's the parents who pushed us too hard or who were absent. Maybe it was the struggles with eating or the trauma of sexual abuse. The fear that our sexual orientation would not be accepted. Or the loneliness of not being sure if we do. From the pain of a failed marriage to children who, what? Don't go to church, or who will have nothing to do with us. Family is hard. We all get wounded along the way. And what I would suggest is this one thing. Whatever the dynamic of each person's family here, however messy and mixed up it is, in all the mess, God has made a home. In all that blessed mess is holiness. And God is very comfortable there. You see, in Jesus, God made a home in human mess. Think about this for a second, if you would. I know it's only August, and it won't be long, will it, before we'll all be inundated with, I even just say this out loud, Christmas stuff. Okay. Maybe this year, notice the Christmas cards you get. Tell me if I'm wrong, but is it not true, at least here's the problem I have with most Christmas cards, is that they're just altogether too pretty. In almost every one I receive, if it's a picture of the Holy Family, the infant Jesus is either asleep peacefully or awake and smiling contentedly. Joseph and Mary look clean and rested. Mary's hair is in place, and her gown looks ironed amazingly. And the truth is, God was not born into a Christmas card world. I'll say that again. God came to us in Jesus. He was not born in a Christmas card world. Think about it. Mary had just given birth to a baby in a manger. How could she look like that? Jesus was born into a mess, a physical, smelly mess. Anyone with rural roots? Am I wrong? Huh? 2, the family mess of having a poor, unwed mother. The political mess, a time of great turmoil, and they themselves soon on the run for their lives. Jesus was not born in a Christmas card world, and I think it's important to remember that because we weren't either. I mean, even in this beautiful first reading, My goodness, it describes the ideal kind of family dynamics. That's a good thing to have. You got to hold up the ideal. It's also important to know that most of us don't live there. Think about the Christmas cards that depict a typical family. Now again, here's what I see. They almost always show a lovely home with a fireplace and the stockings hung peacefully and things are neatly stacked, and the children seem to be enjoying each other. Where did you find those kids? Huh? Yeah. Because we look at our lives and we see, we don't have a Christmas card family, do we, huh? That's the last thing our home looks like. But I suggest we're invited to look again, because that is exactly the type of place Jesus calls home. Think about your family if you would, huh? I hope when you do so, you can think of lots of blessings. Your family growing up, your family now, the community you're a part of. There's also a lot that's hard, isn't there? Huh? I mean, some of what we grew up with and some of what we live with now, it's just annoying. Some of the changes we face are to be expected. And some are shocking, horrific tragedy. And God is there. Ira Byock, who has written fabulous work around death and grief and caring for people as they face dying, in his signature book, Dying Well, said this, I've always loved this. He said, I've long thought the term dysfunctional family is redundant. And tell me if I'm wrong. Let's speak of our parents. From our parents, we all get two things. We get our best gifts and best qualities, and we all get wounded. I love my family. My brother Dennis works here. I got a chance to see him beforehand. I love him. We would both tell you how much we love our family. And we could both tell you some of the wounds we received from growing up. There's just no way around it, evidently. And it's perhaps good to remind ourselves that the best qualities of our mom and dad give us a glimpse into what God was like. And those worst qualities of our mom and dad, God is not like that at all. I know so many people who can never pray to God as Father because their dad abused them or was drunk or absent or ridiculed them or they could never measure up. So we take the best and we know God is so much more. And I would like to say this to you, to hear me if you can. Whatever your family struggles are your personal ones, here's the truth. You are precious of God. You. Wounded you. Flawed you. Imperfect you. Are known through and through by a God who delights in you more than you could ever imagine, and whom you know somewhat in the best qualities of your mom and dad, but is not at all like their worst. God has made a home in the imperfect mess that is your family and my family, in the imperfect mess that is you, that is me. And sometimes you just gotta laugh. A friend of mine couldn't wait to tell me what his 5-year-old daughter said to his wife, to her mom. She was sitting there at the counter and she looked up at Mom and said, you know, Mom, it just dawned on me that when I grow up, I'm going to be just like you. Oh, Mom kind of smiled. She had that warm feeling. And her daughter continued, and Mom, I want you to know, I'm okay with that. I don't know how you parents do this, huh? And if you are a parent, certainly the challenges change, don't they? I can only imagine the joy of raising adolescents. My favorite title of a book I never read, one of my siblings is a counselor, he said it was an okay book, but loved the title on adolescence. It was called Get Out of My Life, but first, could you drive me and Cheryl to the mall? And there is, of course, Mark Twain's theory on raising adolescents. We probably need to lower this a bit now. He said when your kid hits 13, you should put them in one of those barrels with a hole in it. And when they hit 16, cork up the hole. Yeah. And yet, in all of that, whatever the dynamic, God is there. God is there. And if you could remember one thing that I said, and I don't presume that you'll remember any of this, okay? But if you could remember one thing, it would be this 6-word sentence. And it's a sentence that answers the question of how does God come? Where do we find God? How does God come? God comes disguised as your life. How does God come? God comes disguised as your life. In the humor and beauty, God is there laughing with us. In the challenge, God is there to inspire us. In the heartache and mess, to hold us. God comes disguised as your life. We began with a kid's prayer. Let's end with one as well. You know how when you get a little bit older, maybe you don't know this, but it's not always easy when you're a kid to get a little bit older and you wonder some things. And this prayer is called, Do I Still Fit Inside Your Heart? And it goes like this. Do I still fit inside your heart? I asked my mom one day. You see that I am bigger now, in oh so many ways. There's always room for you, Mom said. However big you'll be, you'll always be my precious child. You mean so much to me. And then the little reader turns it towards God. I'm glad that you're like that, oh God. Your heart's so big and free that even when I'm all grown up, you'll still have room for me. Let's make that a prayer to end this with almost the same words, but if I might, I'll let it be tweaked a little bit to maybe be our prayer to God now. And if that's the Pope, tell him I'm behaving. I don't know. I get that. Calls a lot, you know. Yeah. This would be a prayer from us to God now, if you would, huh? Do I still fit inside your heart? I asked my God one day. You see that I am bigger now in oh so many ways. There's always room for you, God said. However big you'll be, you'll always be my precious child. You mean so much to me. I'm glad that you're like that, oh God. Your heart's so big and free that even now, when I'm all grown up, you still have room for me.